At the weekend, you were talking to me about your research, and you sent me a video that indicated that there is a bit of, there could be some foreign influence on the ground in Guinea. And we have been talking about that. We know that the immediate coup, the immediate impetus to the coup would be the political difficulties, particularly to be isolated, is the decision for Alpha Condé to run for a third term, to amend the constitution to run for a third term. So we know that that is the foremost issue that has been put before the people. And then just before the coup, after he gave himself a third term, a certain salary increase for the presidency and his household, and a decrease in compensation, labor compensation for the police and the military and all of that. We know all of that. But now we're trying to look behind the scenes, and we're looking within the context of the African challenge of neocolonialism. You are finding something out about the foreign situation. Tell us about it.
The coup actually appears to be a surgical move to prevent Guinea falling under the Russian orbit.
Say that again?
A surgical move to prevent Guinea falling under the Russian orbit.
To prevent Guinea from falling under the Russian orbit. So Russia has an interest there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Very important one also. Historically, Soviet Union has been an ally of Guinea and Sekou Touré. But after the collapse of the Soviet Union and liberal economic reforms, the Western countries were able to penetrate. So the Guinean mining sector, it's actually dominated by...
The Guinean mining sector?
It's actually dominated by multiple, multinational corporations. The Americans have the American Aluminum Company, Alcoa, you have the Canadian. But within that context also, you also have the Russians, Rusal. But when
what minerals does Guinea, what minerals do Guinea have? Can we see some videos on Guinea, please? What minerals do Guinea have?
The most important mineral it has is bauxite. It's the largest producer in the world. But it equally has iron ore and aluminium, used for making aluminium. So these are the key...
Okay, so this is the map of Guinea on your screen now. So it's a coastal country. Conakry is a coastal city, as you can see. So Guinea-Bissau is up there. Guinea-Bissau is also French, Alhassan?
Guinea-Bissau is Portuguese.
Guinea-Bissau is Portuguese. Yeah. Senegal is French.
Senegal is French.
And on top of the line between Senegal, lying on top of Guinea-Bissau must be Gambia, isn't it?
Yeah, Gambia.
Gambia is English.
Anglophone.
Anglophone, then Guinea-Bissau is Portuguese.
Yeah.
Senegal is French. Guinea itself is French. Yeah. Sierra Leone, down Guinea is Anglophone. Liberia is, well, American, if you like.
Anglophone.
Yeah, you can call it Anglophone, but it's truly American.
Yeah, American.
Not directly British. You know. So Guinea is such a big country that it has one, that's Guinea-Bissau, 2 Senegal, 3 Mali, 4 Cote d'Ivoire, 5 Liberia, 6 Sierra Leone. It has 6 neighboring countries. That's how the expanse of Guinea's territory is, land territory. That's so huge. That's bigger than Ghana, isn't it?
Yeah,
the size of Guinea
obviously.
is big. It's towards Nigeria. It is looking like Guinea may be the next biggest country in West Africa after Nigeria. But I don't know about that. I'm not sure about the population.
Niger
is the next biggest one. Okay, so Guinea is French. All Guinea is French, isn't it? And it has neighbors in Sierra Leone, that's English. Yeah. Mali, that's also French. Cote d'Ivoire, French. Liberia is English. Senegal is French. So where are the minerals, the mineral deposits in Guinea? Is it at the coastal area? Is it in central Guinea?
In the central.
In the central.
And some are also around the northern side.
Northern side being the border towards Mali.
Yeah.
What kind of minerals do they have?
Around that area?
Yes, Guinea, generally, the whole country.
Guinea has bauxite. It's the largest producer of bauxite in the world.
The largest
producer of bauxite
in the world, okay.
And then you have iron ore in large deposit. You have uranium, although the amount of uranium has not been quantified. But uranium is equally very important to France. Plus, France depends on nuclear energy for most of its electricity. Although it's not dependent on Niger, because Niger is the largest producer of uranium. But in the Guinean case, for example, when Alpha Condé intended to run for a third term, France wasn't actually in support, because economic needs stability to grow. And his decision was causing instability. Mind you, he took his cue from Cote d'Ivoire. What do you call this guy? Ouattara. But he failed to understand the internal context. Ouattara came forward with the backing of a rebel group. So he has support of the military. In Ouattara's case, the opposition was virtually absent. They were languishing in jail. So there was no one to oppose him, organize opposition on the street. But in the Guinean case, the opposition was there. So there was strong opposition and decided to use force. But then he realized that the French were not in support of it. So he was moving closer to the Russians. So he was a very close friend of the then Russian ambassador to Guinea, Alexander Bregazi. But what inequally happened that alarmed France? Bregazi resigned as an ambassador of Russia and became the head of RUSA, which is
what's RUSA?
RUSA, that's the Russian mining Russian Aluminum Corporation.
Oh, that's interesting. The Russian Aluminum Corporation was doing business in Guinea.
Yeah, because unlike
mining iron ore and stuff like that. And then the Russian ambassador, the political ambassador, resigned his diplomatic post and then became the chief executive of the company.
And that alarmed the French. But prior to that, when Central African Republic was in chaos, when the Seleka rebel overthrew Francois Bozize, France was the first country to send troops as usual because of its France-Africa policy, but it couldn't hold the ground. The killing and the, violence between the Seleka and the anti-Balaka movement continued. AU sent troops, they couldn't prevent it. So Russia intervened, but Russia applies plausible deniability. It goes in with mercenaries who are from the Wagner group, headed by, Yevgeny Prigozhin. It's fondly called Putin's chef. He goes to do the dirty work on behalf of Russians. So France, having lost Central African Republic to the Russians, because now the Wagner group is now protecting the Central African government and securing mining contracts for the Russians. So when, Bregazi resigned his diplomatic position and opted to be the head of the company and in charge of its Guinean operation, it alarmed the French. So these are within the context in which the foreign involvement in the coup occurred. But then, what only happened? The internal dynamics.
So the French, the perennial colonial master you are suspecting, became worried that Russia was penetrating the minds of the executive of Alpha Conde.
Yeah.
You suspect that the French foreign policy became alarmed that Russia and the Kremlin were penetrating the thoughts of the executive of Guinea. That's your suspicion?
Yeah.
But okay, this Guinean company, this Russian company you talk about, what's it called again?
RUSA.
They're a mining company.
Yeah.
They're a state-owned company. Russia state-owned.
It's state-aligned.
State-aligned. So it's a private company like the Chinese one that we know.
Yeah.
Okay, so they were mining in there. Were there any French companies also mining there? Maybe German?
No,
maybe?
the French don't have active involvement in the mining sector. Their position is more political. France has this policy whereby the French colonists pay so-called colonial rent to the French. So when any country that fall outside that orbit, they begin to lose that side of the revenue they get. And then in the Guinean mining sector, there's no single company which is dominant. It's more like a theft where everyone is trying to get a bite. So there's this particular Sibandu mine in northern Guinea, which has been a very controversial, investment.
What does it hold? What does Sibandu mine hold?
Bauxite.
Bauxite. Okay.
But the issue is that there's this counterclaims and claims of land cession agreement between the government and the rest. And there's always this perception that one side bribed the other to secure contracts. So it appears that now the goal is to prevent Russia from gaining ground. But then the internal dynamics gave them the advantage to plot the coup.
Summarize the foreign interest in the Guinean situation as we continue monitoring. What's the foreign interest?
So now it's about resource control. By resigning from his diplomatic position, that's Alexander Bregazi, and coming to work for RUSA, which has a mining interest in Guinea, he's trying to secure not just an economic interest for Russia, but trying to gain political leverage. So now the French are alarmed, having been outsmarted by Russians in Central African Republic, where through the Wagner group, Russia is able to secure mining rights. So now the French, having been alarmed, used the internal condition on the ground. But prior to that, during the Russian-African Summit, which was held between somewhere October 2019, it was reported that Alpha Conde personally secured the promise of Putin to stand by him when push comes to shove, because he was coming for a third term, which he knew the French were actually against. And that was why, realizing that the larger Guinean military is pro-French, and not like, he couldn't trust the larger Guinean military. He personally created the special forces, which is headed by, Mamadi Doumbouya, in order to protect him. But unfortunately for him, the agent he seek to use in protecting himself was actually used against him rather.
That's very interesting. So right now, which foreign power could potentially be controlling the military situation in Guinea?
Well, the coup plotter himself, now being very smart, trying not to ruffle shoulders or create rivalry between the superpowers, realized that Russia, being the losing side of the current arrangement, personally visited the Russian ambassador to assure him of respecting the mining contract and all the agreement that was signed prior to his coup. In order not to agitate the Russians.
So the coup leader has done that?
Yeah.
So he's good with Russia?
Yeah.
Okay, great. What about France?
By overthrowing Conde and appearing to be on the side of the people, France has already secured its interest, and there's no need for it to be alarmed.
Do you foresee a new constitution being written and return to constitutional rule?
Well, it appears Mamadi Doumbouya might take a cue from the Assimi Goïta of Mali, whereby you promise within a time frame to conduct elections and then restore democracy. But then you keep on delaying the necessary conditions that might be met before you plot the coup. But mind you, ECOWAS will have a role to play. If they repeat the mistake they did in Mali, whereby they allowed a pseudo military government to be formed, when Assimi Goïta was forced to resign in the first instant, the guys who were appointed were actually ex-generals in Malian army. So it wasn't like a fresh civilian. It was more like a pseudo military government, and that allowed Assimi Goïta to still come back to power. So this high time ECOWAS must be really firm on the ground and ensure that going forward, not only should Doumbouya be made, should be incapacitated within the military, he should be forced to resign from the military entirely and go back to France.
What if he wants to run as a civilian person for power? He's very popular these days on the streets in Guinea. He's the popular messiah. What if he decides to pull down his military garb and run on the ticket of a political party for the next election?
I don't think that will be acceptable by ECOWAS, because ECOWAS is trying to forestall further coup in the region. And moreover, taking a cue from the Malian situation, Assimi Goïta was not allowed to...
Yeah, but Charles Taylor was allowed to transfer himself into a military ruler. Flight Lieutenant Rawlings was allowed to transfer himself into a military ruler. Chief Obasanjo has been a military ruler of Nigeria and 2 times civilian ruler. So there's precedent in ECOWAS.
Charles Taylor came to power through a civil war. And then in the time of Rawlings, that was a time when African countries were being democratized. It was a general thing across the board. And in Obasanjo's case, Obasanjo was invited back to contest because Obasanjo was the first Nigerian military man to voluntarily go back to the barrack. And when he was resigning in 1979, he didn't just hand over power. He ensured that all his colleagues who were part of the military administration actually resigned alongside, together with him. So that was under the condition where Obasanjo was allowed to come back. Even with that.
But even Blaise Compaoré of Cote d'Ivoire came in as a military ruler after overthrowing Thomas Sankara. He put his garb down and he became a civilian ruler. He ran 2 terms of office.
Historically, France has the policy of backing dictators. They just applied recently in the Chadian case, after the death of Deby. Per the Chadian constitution, the Speaker of the National Assembly should have become the acting head of state and conduct election within 6 months, if I'm not mistaken. But then, we argue that because of the instability in the Sahel and the fact that Deby was killed in the battlefront, so meaning Chad itself was not stable, so democracy can give way for the need for stability. But in the Guinean situation, for example, looking at how ECOWAS focused on the Malian case, and mind you, Guinea shares border with Mali. Looking at the kind of pressure that was mounted on Assimi Goïta, I'm tempted to think that rather pressure will still be mounted on Doumbouya to leave office.